Hi, this is Denise with Paper Crafty, and I'm here today to share with you some of my experiments that I've been doing with eco-printing. I did an entire 50-page pack of watercolor paper, and I got this little, this is like the size of a like a steno notebook. Like these pages are like the size of a steno notebook, maybe a tiny bit smaller. And I got an entire 50-page pack of this watercolor paper at Five Below for $5. So I thought, oh, you know, I have it here in my stash. I'm going to go ahead and try it out. Now, I don't have a lot of room, honestly, for an entire set of kitchen equipment, huge pans, steamers, you know, tongs and all of that stuff that is not part of my regular cooking utensils. So, you know, I really was hesitant to be working with a lot of like rusty bits and a lot of really harsh chemicals. Since I was doing this in my kitchen, I didn't really feel comfortable, you know, exposing everybody, even though I have a really good hood and you know, a fan system. I didn't feel comfortable exposing everybody to a lot of fumes from those kinds of chemicals, because from some of the things I was reading, some of the chemicals that are produced when you combine vinegar and like rusty bits can be pretty toxic. So I didn't really feel comfortable working with all of that. So I thought, well, you know, I'm just going to experiment. I posted on my local Buy Nothing group, and I asked, you know, I noticed that some iron tablets that people take as supplements are iron sulfate. And that is a common mordant that people use in eco-printing. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try those. Well, the lady who was able to gift me this gifted me some iron tablets that weren't actually iron sulfate. They were this iron glycinate. And I looked it up, and it's still a salt. So I thought, well, I'll play with it. I'll try it and see if it works. I really have nothing to lose. I had gotten this really lovely bouquet of roses from my husband for Valentine's Day. So I thought, and they were just starting to wilt. So I thought, oh, you know, maybe I can use those and see what we can do. Well, I'm really excited with how they turned out, and I'm going to go through and show you the equipment. I just took pictures. I didn't take a video of my process, but I'll show you some pictures of some of the equipment that I used and kind of what I did to achieve these results. And you know, I'll go through all of the papers I did. I did it in like 5 different batches. So I did all 50 papers, and I actually say I really love the way they turned out. I'm super excited with it. So before I go in and show you all of the papers that I did, I'm going to show you kind of how I went about doing this. And I didn't want to spend money. One of the things is I didn't really want to spend money on doing this. So I had this, you know, aluminum, I guess it's aluminum, I don't know, box that I had been saving because I really liked it. It was a grooming kit that I had gotten my son for Christmas one year, you know, and he took the stuff out and then, you know, was going to get rid of the box. And of course I'm like, oh no, I can use that. So, you know, I've had it in my closet for quite a while, and I wasn't really planning anything specific with it. And I didn't have anything that, you know, wasn't plastic, that wouldn't melt, that was the right size, that would fit into my pan. So, you know, I thought, okay, well, this will work. The other thing that I had seen is that I had, there were, at the dollar store, at Dollar Tree, there were canvases that are about this size, the size of this paper. And I was going to buy one, and then I'm like, oh, I have canvases at home. I'm going to see if I have one. Well, the ones that I had were either too big or too small. So I should have probably bought that. But this, you know, this worked. But if you don't have, you know, a aluminum box this size, you know, or a metal box that can go in a pan of hot water, then, you know, you can perhaps use one of those canvases at the Dollar Tree. So for $1.50, you have something the right size. So anyway, all I did is I laid the paper on top of there. You know, first I soaked it, and I just used, you know, these iron tablets are little capsules. So I just took about 5, just in my kettle, my tea kettle, I heated up some water to boiling, and then I used about 5 cups of water in a glass, you know, I don't know, lasagna pan, you know, just one of those rectangle lasagna pans, and added one of these capsules in there. And then I took each of these pages, I just put it inside there. After the tablet dissolved, I put it in there, and in the glass pan of the water with the iron tablet, and let them soak. I put a couple of cans of water, sparkling water on top of it, or soda, or whatever you have, just to make sure that the paper stayed submerged. And I let them soak for a little while. I didn't really time it too much. I just let them soak probably for no more than 10-15 minutes, maybe as long as half an hour. I don't know. I didn't really you know, look at the time too carefully. And then I just took the pages out, and I layered them up, and these are rose petals, and this is actually, I think this is a dandelion from my front yard that I just laid on there, and apparently dandelions are non-toxic, so I was excited about that. And I used a combination of rose petals, you know, different plants from my front yard and my backyard. We have eucalyptus growing in the back, so I used some eucalyptus. I used the rose petals and the rose leaves. I don't know if I said that already. I used some lavender, which I love the way that turned out. We have a heather, I think it's a heather bush, or similar to a heather. I used a little bit of that. I used a little bit of rock rose flowers, and then some rosemary. We had some rosemary blooming. So I used a combination of different things like that. And I looked them up. I'm pretty sure those are all non-toxic. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm pretty certain that they are. So then I layered them up, and I did about 10 sheets at a time. So I'd put the, I put the paper down, I'd place the flowers and the leaves down, and then I'd put the next page down, you know, and then more leaves and petals and whatnot, and then the next page down, and so on. And once I had 10 pages, you know, kind of like that, then I would take and bind the whole thing up with this twine. And this is just twine that it's a polyester cotton blend that I had gotten at Smart and Final. So I just took, you know, a really long piece of this, and then I, you know, put it underneath like that. Oops, I gotta take more off here. I put it in like that, and then I, you know, tied it, and then wrapped it around, and wrapped it around widthwise and then lengthwise, and I made it really as tight and compact as I could. Okay, and then when I was done doing that, I took and I put it into, I put this whole thing in a pot of boiling water that had a little steamer on it. So I didn't submerge this whole thing in the water. I put a steamer on top of it, and I'll show you a picture right here of what my setup looked like. And And then I put this whole thing right on top of it. And actually this thing, the width of this is a little too big to go all the way down. So it actually kind of helped hold it above the water level too. Put the lid on and then let them steam for, and I steam them for different amounts of time. So I'll go into that as well. So yeah, so I was pretty excited with the way those turned out. So, and I did a few different little variations of them, and I'll tell you what I did as I go along. So the very first batch that I made was this one here. And you can see where the string has bound it all up. And I'll show you, here's a picture. I'm gonna put up a picture right now of what this looked like when it was all bound and still on top of this metal piece like that. So this is the first batch that I did. And you can see here where the string lines were on some of it. Okay, and I really like the way this turned out. I think it turned out actually really good. I'm really happy with it. I think this is the heather that I used, and you can see, you know, I got it that transferred on both sides of the page. And these are not in order necessarily. You can see that these two don't match. But this is the rose leaves right here. Here's some more rose leaves. And these are the eucalyptus leaves that I had. I really like the way those turned out. I think those turned out really pretty. My son really liked that one. And these eucalyptus leaves turned out super cool. This, I think, was on the bottom of the pile. So in other words, there was no plant matter underneath it. So it was just like that. So that's why this side doesn't really have anything except for what, you know, bled through in different places. But I really love the way these turned out. These eucalyptus leaves were actually kind of like bug eaten. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to put them in there. And these are some of my favorites. I really love the way that turned out. But I really love the way these different colors, I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but wow, just you get the purples and the reds, and there's a lot of different colors that are showing through. I was really actually pretty happy with that. There's more of those leaves. These are the rock roses, and they came out really blue. This first batch I steamed for 15 minutes, and then I turned off the heat, and I had to go take my daughter to school. So I let it sit for another, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, took it out when I came back, and you know, this blue really came out pretty for those rock roses. So yeah, I was really happy with that. Oh, you can see the blue right there. These two must have been facing like that. There we go. Yeah, you can see. And then some more eucalyptus. And you can tell these were on the top. They got more, you know, they had more contact with the steam. You can see how it bled a little bit more on those. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, so I was super excited with that. And then just let those dry. And then the next group that I did was this one. And I did exactly the same thing, but I did notice when I took this one out, I think it was this one. Yeah, I did notice when I took this one out that it was a little bit dry. It felt kind of dry to the touch. So after this was all bound up on this thing and tied with string, I took the entire thing and it was, you know, all tied up there, and I just dunked the whole thing in the water bath with the iron tablet. And I let that soak while the water was coming up to boil in my pot. And so I noticed that this one has a lot more bleeding around the edges, and you'll see, you can see how that happens a little bit more in this batch. And I also boiled these for a half an hour instead of 15 minutes to see if that would make any difference. So I think the colors turned out a little bit darker when I boiled it a little bit longer. You can see how the water, like you can see like the water seeping in here in different areas. You kind of get a little bit more of a watercolor effect in some places. And this was the lavender. I just love that blue. Look at how that turned out. That's gorgeous. But you can see how the water was seeping in around these plants here. So you kind of get that wicking look on that. And you know, it's just it's just experimenting and a personal thing, whether you prefer that or not. So yeah. But yeah, I think that one thing I did notice is that I did use some rock rose in certain places, and I couldn't get that blue again from the rock rose. And here's the eucalyptus. You can see how it's a little bit darker than the one that I only boiled for 15 minutes. Now here's some rock rose petals that I just took off and put on there. And those didn't turn blue. I thought they would turn blue because when I did the whole flower, it turned that really lovely blue, and I didn't get that result here. And then I tried to do a whole rose, and I'm not sure if I really love the way that turned out, because I'd have to iron it first and see if I still really like that. But I haven't ironed any of these pages yet. But you can see how it really buckled the page. I really love these colors and the way they turned out. You get a lot more of that watercolor kind of effect just by dunking it like that. And again, you can see how the eucalyptus are a little bit darker. This is, I believe, a dandelion, another dandelion plant. You can get some really interesting designs there. Another, that same dandelion, I think. And then this one just turned out really pretty. It's really dark and vibrant. Okay. So after I did those two, I thought, I wonder what would happen if I didn't put any of this iron in the water that I soak the watercolor paper in at all. So I did a batch of just 5 because I really wasn't sure how it would turn out. And I was actually shocked that I got this result. And yeah, I can see a little bit of a difference between these and some of the, the ones that use the iron tablets as a mordant, but it's not like hugely different. I mean, you can see these are the ones where I boiled it for half an hour. And I soaked them in the one iron tablet. It just has this one of these in there. And these are the ones that are just pure water. You can see the colors are a little bit lighter in some of them, and you get more of a watercolor washed out effect and not as many details on some of the places. But I mean, all in all, I was just absolutely shocked that I got these kinds of results with just using water. And I did the same thing where I soaked each page individually just in water, layered them up on here, exactly the same way. And I washed everything that I used before I did this one. This was the 3rd batch, so that, to make sure all the iron was gone. And then, I went through the whole process and soaked them, layered them up, layered the plants material up. And then when I was, after they were all bound and all the pages were on top, I again turned this entire thing and just dunked the whole thing in the water, just like that. Just to get it, to make sure they were well saturated with water. And I'll just go through and show you what I got here. But I was just absolutely shocked that I got these kinds of results with just using water and no mordant whatsoever. I love this one. This must have been the very bottom page, the one that was, you know, or I don't know where this one was. But I don't know. But I love that one. It's like this beautiful watercolor effect, and I love these colors. I do notice that, you know, you really get some beautiful colors doing this. I will say that we have very hard water where I live. And, you know, that makes me, I was told when we had a water test that we do not have lead in our water, but it does make me a little concerned for the quality of our water. You know, normally we have a water softener, but ours went out like maybe a year ago. And I'm thinking I really do need to get that fixed because this is, our water is really hard. But I want to do a little bit more experimenting with some other things to see if it's because our water is hard. So like I was thinking, next batch I want to buy a gallon of distilled water and see if I get these kinds of results with that. Because I did, you know, like I said, we have hard water, and also I used our hot water to fill both the water reservoir and the pot that for boiling. And I thought, you know, we do have a tankless water heater, and there is, you know, some bit of rust residue in there, you know, because it's kind of a little bit older, like maybe 15 years, you know, well, maybe not 15, maybe like 13 years old. So it could be that there is some rust in our water. So, you know, I don't know, just our water normally. But you can see, again, you know, there is a little bit of a difference with the mordant. You can see definitely a little bit more detail and a little bit more vibrant colors. But I just was pretty impressed with just, you know, just using water. Okay. All right. So after I did that one, let's see, I went back and I did it the same way I did it the first time. This batch is, again, just one iron pill, and I soaked them and I just steamed them for 15 minutes. So I'll just go quickly through them. So this is the same exact process that I used for the first batch. But look at this lavender. Oh my goodness. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? I love the way that turned out. And these are just red rose leaves. Oh, the thing I did differently in this one is that I, again, took the whole thing like this, soaked it in the water after it was tied up. Okay, so that's the only thing that I did differently between this batch and the second and the first batch. That's the only thing I did differently. And I just did that while I was waiting for the pot of water to come to boil. So yeah, I really love the way these turned out. I think they turned out really, really pretty. I don't know what that was. That's kind of interesting, huh? And again, there's another lavender, but you can see where the water seeped in, you know, around here. I mean, you can, I don't know. It's just, it's interesting to me to see, you know, you can see like here, you kind of get that line, like when you have a book and you get, you know, you drop water on it and it gets some water damage. This is one of my favorites, I think, with the lavender and the eucalyptus. Oh my gosh, I love that. And then you have some of the bleed over from the other pages with the rose petals. Isn't that pretty? I'm so excited with the way these turned out. Yeah, I love that. And that one, has a lot of different stuff on it. I think this must have been the top one with all the lines. I don't know. Okay. All right. And so the last one that I did, you know, I was getting tired. This took an entire day to do all of these. But the last one I did the same process where I soaked each page in one tablet of these in that water. And then I layered them up exactly the same way. This time I did 15 pages because I was just, I was kind of getting tired. The thing that I did differently that I had kind of meant to do, but then I forgot that I was going to do it, is that after I had already bundled them all together, I took and I put like maybe 3 or 4 more pills into the water. And then I took this entire, you know, bundled container, you know, like that was all tied up like this, and I soaked them like this in that water that had a lot more iron in it, to see if that would make a difference. And I'd really meant to soak the papers individually in that stronger water, and then I forgot that I was going to do that. But what I did notice is that you can really see there's more browns in this one. I'm getting more of the results that you'd expect to see with like the iron sulfate, where there were more browns. And also you can definitely see the water lines a lot more in this batch than in the previous batches. But you can see, can you see the brown here, how you're getting a lot more of those, see, compared to the other ones, a lot more of these kinds of browns than in some of the other ones, especially a lot of the edges, you know, where the water was able to seep in, that with the one that had more of the iron in it. And I think I only boiled these 15 minutes because I wanted to get more of, I think that boiling longer, steaming longer, not boiling, but steaming longer, you lose some of the more subtle blues than if you only boil for like, or steam for like 15 minutes. Love the way that one turned out. Isn't that pretty? And again, you can see where the water kind of seeped in around here. See how brown that is? That's what you'd expect to see, I think, with the iron sulfate. But you definitely get a lot more definition. I love the blue that you get from the lavender. That's another dandelion leaf. I see how that water, you can see where the water seeped in, and you get more of those brown colors. And in here as well, you can see a lot more brown popping up. I just love the way that turned out. Look at that. And there you go. Again, this is a little bit lighter. It's probably farther down in the pack. But yeah, really just super excited with the way these turned out. I think they turned out really, really pretty. And one of the things I'm most excited about in this is that, you know, I used essentially all non-toxic materials, and everything is, you know, food quality. So, you know, except for, you know, obviously you don't eat roses, but, you know, everything is either non-toxic or food quality. So I don't really feel like I need to have separate pans simply for eco-printing. I mean, I just used an aluminum pan that I I don't use it a lot. I rarely use it. Look at all this brown that's popping up in here. Oh, that's so pretty. I like the contrast between that and some of these deeper purples and reds. So pretty. But yeah, so I don't really feel like I, you know, needed to have separate equipment, you know, separate tongs and a separate, you know, huge pan for boiling these. I would use what I have for food. Again, I don't see why not. I mean, none of this stuff is toxic. You know, as long as I wash it out really well. And this is another whole rose that I did, and I kind of like the way this one turned out a little bit better. This is just the front cover of the pad, the paper pad. So this is not watercolor paper. So you can see there's a huge difference in quality between the transfer, the print transfer between other types of paper and this, you know, the watercolor paper. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm, in general, just super happy with the results, that I got from these. I think that, and this is one of the ones I just did with, that's the one I did just with the water alone. So, but yeah, I mean, I have to say, I'm pretty excited, with the way these turned out, and, with the quality of the prints that I got, using essentially non-toxic iron supplements. And I really want to get the iron sulfate. So I think I'll ask again on my Buy Nothing group to see if anybody has actual iron sulfate tablets, to see if those make a difference as well. But anyhow, yeah, so this is what I got from my first try at eco printing. I have to say I'm pretty happy with it. There's a lot of, in the junk journal community, we do a lot of dyeing, like with other things like avocado, and we don't use a mordant on that. So even though some people that, do this in fabric recommend using a mordant. So, since we're doing it on paper, on watercolor paper, I'm not sure it's absolutely necessary, for us to do that. We're not putting these on the wall, where they're going to be exposed to sunlight a great deal of the time, where you're going to have, you need to have, light proof, light fast, types of inks, where, mordants are much more important. Yeah, these might fade over time. I'm going to go ahead and probably scan these, so that, I have them and I can use them in the future, even if, I don't have some, especially if I want to transfer some of these to like some lighter weight paper, because working with some of these thicker papers in a junk journal isn't, always, you can't put too many of those in a junk journal. They get, we get really, really bulky really, really fast. So, but yeah, I'm really loving this, and I encourage you to give it a try if you've been hesitant because you're, a little bit intimidated by trying to, find rusty bits in your backyard or friends' yards or whatnot, and all these chemicals that, people want you to use. Yeah, I don't know that you need all of that. I didn't use all of that, and I'm pretty excited and happy with the results that I got. So anyway, that's my sharing for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And leave me a comment down below. Have you ever eco-dyed before? I'm really curious to see what other people's results have been, and if they've tried to do it with just plain water before, and have had, successful results. But yeah, I'm curious to see what other people have done, and if you want to give this a try, try it. And if you have some iron supplements hanging around in your cabinet, and either you're using or you don't use it that much, try those. Try dissolving those. I mean, it can't hurt. It's just, at the most, if you do 10 pages at a time, maybe you wasted 10 pages of watercolor paper. So what? Not that big of a deal. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please give it a thumbs up if you did. Leave me a comment down below. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel. Again, my name is Denise with Paper Crafty, and have fun getting crafty.